This episode of the Sports Box is brought to you by Mic'd Up Entertainment and DJ Mike Velardi. For all of your event planning needs, make sure you contact Mike at 609-864-5925 and tell him that you saw him on the Sports Box.
And we're on the air. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the show that's worth wetting your pants over. This is the Sports Box, the only opinion that matters. It's right here. I am Mike Galetta, a.k.a. Hamilton Mike, along with my partner, Brian, the Ranger Retard. Brian, how in God's name are you today?
Listen, my pants are dry. I hope yours are too.
Well, that's what the pens are for. So anyway, let's talk a little bit of the NFL, because on our quest to 32 teams for our preview show, we now go to the Indianapolis Colts to talk to the man, the myth, and the guy who loves the Colts, which when nobody else does. He's known as Hamilton as Jukebox, but on the show he will be known as Jim Santora. Jim, how are you, my friend?
How you doing, buddy? A proud Colts fan since 1986. So,
wow,
what's that? 31 years.
That's a long time. That's a lot of bad football.
A lot of bad football, and a lot of great football. But
that's a whole other show. Anyway, let's get to the Indianapolis Colts. Brian, stab me on the Colts.
Listen, 1986 might be the last year they stopped somebody defensively, but they finished 8-8 last year, good enough for third place in the AFC South. They did not make the playoffs. Offense never a problem for this team. They finished 5th in the league through the air, 23rd on the ground, averaging 10th. Andrew Luck, 4,200 yards, 31 touchdowns, 13 picks. Frank Gore, who I believe is not yet collecting Social Security, but close. 1,000-yard season, 4 touchdowns. T.Y. Hilton, revelation. He's one of the top receivers in the league. 1,448 yards and 6 touchdowns, but that defense, 27th against the pass, 25th against the run, 30th overall. And for you math majors, there's only 32 teams in the league. They tried to address it in the draft as best they could. Malik Hooker, safety out of Ohio State, went first to them, 15th overall. I felt that's probably a good pick at that spot.
Yeah.
I think he fell a little bit to them.
Yeah.
But they also got a guy like in Quincy Wilson, cornerback out of Florida, in the second round, who
desperately needed.
Some people thought he might be a first-round pick. So, Jim, I'm not going to go to the defense just yet because we have a lot of time for that.
Because he's destroyed you already.
Let's start off on a good note. Andrew Luck, listen, if there's one guy that you cannot blame for the Colts not winning, it's that guy because he gives you everything he has and then some every year. Talk to me a little bit about how it feels every Sunday when Andrew Luck's taking balls behind center.
Well, first of all, Andrew Luck, who is actually entering, what's he been in the league, 6 years now?
Entering his 6th year, yeah.
I mean, you don't... when he is healthy and he is under center, he may be in the conversation. There's always argument for it. He's probably one of the top 8 to 10 quarterbacks in the league, and he actually stays on the field. He's we're probably talking top 6. The guy definitely can do his thing, but the question is he going to be durable? He's already on the PUP list. Because of his shoulder surgery and stuff. So we're going to see what happens with this guy. He is a major key into what this team does moving forward. There's no question about that.
Jim, you look at the wide receiver core, you actually look at the offense on this side of the ball besides Andrew Luck. You got to, it seems like to me they're a little bit heavy on wide receivers. You got Dante Moncrief, Philip Dorsett, you got obviously the explosive T.Y. Hilton. You got Jack Doyle, who's a very good tight end, but then you talk about the running back position, and as Brian kind of alluded to, if you didn't, get the pun there, Frank Gore is like living with a walker, and you got Robin Turbin behind him, Marlon Mack. I mean, it's not a good running back class. Is there anything on the horizon, or you think that this team can survive this year with that running back core?
Well, this is one huge problem that the Colts have. Obviously, Frank Gore is now 34 years old, and most guys at his age are definitely in the decline in the NFL.
That's like 70 for a running back.
Great career. Don't get me wrong, but he's how much longer are they going to have this guy pounding up the between the tackles on a regular basis?
I believe he's got one more year.
It's not going to happen, and I don't think Turbin is a guy that you're going to rely on as the next man up. In this offense.
Yeah.
And Marlon Mack, 4th-round pick from South Florida. Basically, the analysis on him was he's a slashing, big play running back. He's everything Frank Gore is not. But we don't know what this guy's going to do. I mean, it's obviously the fourth round pick. We're going to have to see what this guy does. I think it's something that the Colts needed to address, perhaps in free agency, if there was anybody that they felt was available. Obviously they felt that Frank Gore was still better than anybody else that was available. And so here we are with a team, and let's look at the rest of the offense. And the rest of the offense is, with no doubt, probably one of the better receiving corps out there.
Yep.
In the league, especially when you have Hilton and Moncrief. You got Dorsett in there as well. Doyle's gonna handle his own. We lost Dwayne Allen, which that's going to give more opportunities for Doyle now to step up as a tight end. But that running game is important. Gore does come out of the backfield and catch some passes for you, but again, I think that's going to be another big question mark, along with how. If Andrew Luck can stay healthy, there's two big question marks on this offense. When they're able to go at 100%, probably one of the best offenses out there. But it's really going to be the durability of Gore and the health of Luck that's really going to tell the tale here.
Well, Jim, if they have only a couple of questions on the offensive side of the ball, I think the defensive side of the ball is a game of jeopardy. Listen,
well, you're just a comedian today, aren't you?
I'm on point today. Jim, the Colts have allowed over 350 yards a game in 5 of the past 6 years. That's probably not a stat that's going to shock you too much or make you thrilled. Again, they did their best to address it in the draft. They went after guys who were going to help their secondary, but I guess from your vantage point, is there any legitimate reason to believe that this is going to be the year that they break out of that streak of just being a team that they just can't stop anything? If not for the Saints, they'd probably be the worst defense in football. And that's unfortunate for a guy like Andrew Luck, who, like you said, is fantastic, but he's not getting any support from the opposite side of the ball.
Yeah, this is a team where, for whatever reason, never seems to do the right things on defense. And despite having some great players, especially rushing the passer over the years, and some decent linebackers over the years, and some secondary guys, not to mention a bunch of names. But I'll tell you what, I started looking at what they have as a projected defense this year, and I'm sitting here going, in the big scheme of things here, who the hell are these guys that are on this field? And there's a thing out there. I think there's like 7 new guys that are going to be starting on this defensive side, and yeah, they haven't played it down yet, but I still think it's more of the same. I don't think it's going to get much better. You're going to have, again, Quincy Wilson and Malik Hooker are going to be in the secondary. Those guys are rookies, and outside of Vontae Davis that's out there, I think there's going to be guys that are going to be chasing a lot of guys down the field, especially early on. I really can't say much about the rest of the defense because, I believe outside of Edwin Jackson, the other guys are kind of, I'm not really sure what we got out here. And to top it off, even on the depth chart right now, you got 3 projected starters in Clayton Gaithers, who's going to be a strong safety, Hooker, and then Kendall Langford, who's a defensive end. All 3 of them are currently listed as out right now, so depending on what's going on there's going to be a lot of jumping around, and it's really going to be an opportunity for these guys to try to step up and make this defense somewhat legitimate, because this is, we can talk about the offense all day long, and the offense will hold their own, but this defense is, every year, the defense is always a big question mark. Even when Peyton Manning was there, the defense was always a question mark. The difference was then was that you had Peyton Manning at quarterback, and you had guys, you had all kinds of skilled position guys in the receiver core and running back that could overcome that defense. No question. I don't know if this team is even close to that, and I think this defense is going to struggle, but hey, maybe they surprise us and they come out and they look like something that maybe we haven't seen in the Colts in quite some time.
One of their additions was Jonathan Hankins. He used to play for the Giants. He's a run-stuffing defensive tackle. He was quoted as saying that he feels right now that they have the best defense in the AFC. So, yeah, Aim high.
Mike, it's good to be optimistic.
Oh, yeah.
Aim high.
Yeah, aim high. Hey, that was my follow-up question on that, Jim. You look at this defense, you look at the pieces they put together for this team. You talk about, like, Margus Hunt from Cincinnati they brought in, Jabil Sheard from New England. You talk about Sean Spence from Tennessee, John Simon from Houston. I mean, yeah, they've probably done a good job of filling some holes there, but in the same sense, you got guys that have never played with each other. It's going to be interesting to see how this defense forms together. And a secondary that was falling apart last year, like you said, Malik Hooker and Quincy Jones added to the cause. Malik Hooker is probably going to start the year on the PUP list. Clinton Gathers is going to start the year on the PUP list. So, Jim, how do you get by? Plus, they brought in Vontae Davis from Miami. How do you survive with that secondary being as holish? Is that a word? Holish as it is in this year.
I think he means Swiss.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's good. They're going to have to do. It's really going to come down to coaching and matchups, and it's going to. That's what's really going to tell the tale for these guys. I don't really. I really hope that they prove they. Again, when you start putting additional guys that you've picked up, or you got draft picks that all of a sudden they're in the starting lineup, there's no real, when you're looking at this team, outside of Vontae Davis, he's kind of like the one guy, like if anybody's looking at this team and knows Colts players, that's the only guy on the defense that kind of jumps out and like, I know this guy. That's why I think the big problem is here. I don't know where these, all these other guys, they're all different pieces. So where are they going to fit, and how is it going to translate when they're on the field? Can they get all on the same page during the preseason and then translate that into the regular season moving forward? Otherwise, we're talking long season for the Colts.
I know the one guy that's going to be back in his 21st year in football is that Adam Vinatieri. People are probably just waiting for him to fail now. It's amazing. This guy just keeps coming back. At 44 years old, he's still kicking, fine enough to play an NFL season. So good for him.
Well, he is one guy that definitely can do the job. He is probably. He's probably a Hall of Famer as a kicker. There's no doubt there.
Yeah, I would think
what
so.
He's done in New England and even in Indianapolis. He's probably the one bright spot there in the special teams unit this year for sure.
And Jimmy, take a look at the schedule. I think it breaks well for them early. In their first 5 games, they have 3 games against probably 3 of the bottom 5 teams in the league between the Rams, the Browns, and the Niners. So they have a chance to come out of the gate hot, but it gets a little harder, as you move through, especially towards the end of the year. Games against defensive stalwarts, Baltimore and Denver. What are your thoughts on this team? They've been 8-8 2 straight years. I mean, is this going to break one way or another this year?
Well, let's see. I was just looking at the schedule, then of course I lost it here. But where's the league schedule?
Attaboy, Jim. Attaboy. Never let me prepare on the sports box.
I hold in my hands here, and I lost it. That's technology.
You got your hands on that bowling ball. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's what it is. Give me a sec. Give me a sec here, boys. We'll get
no problem, Jim. We got all day.
He's probably trying to suit up for their defense.
It could be. Yeah. Well, you're really just killing Jim now, aren't you? Before a guy comes on and gives us a about the Colts.
Listen, Jim's the man. I like Andrew Luck. I just want someone to give that guy some support here.
I'm going to put Jim on a suicide box tonight.
So we're back in action here. So, okay. Actually, when you start looking at these, and it's probably a different type of season this year. I mean, the Colts are going to really have to try to jump out of the gate. But, I mean, the Los Angeles Rams are the opener. They go to Los Angeles, and then they got Arizona, and then Cleveland is right after that. There's a couple teams here that you've got to kind of look at and say, what Los Angeles Rams team is going to jump out? Are they going to finally be a team that people are going to pay attention to? Are they going to be the same team that, they look really good, then all of a sudden they fall flat? Arizona, same thing. Are they the Arizona team that we've seen 2 or 3 years ago, or are they kind of team that's on a decline? I mean, there's a lot of teams out there that have some unanswered questions. I mean, obviously, those first 5 weeks are going to be interesting for the Colts. I mean, they got Cleveland, they got San Francisco. So 2 of those games you're looking at and saying, yeah, those are probably games they could win, especially if they're at home. But the Rams game is going to be funny on the road to start the season. They got Seattle on the road. That'll probably be an interesting one because Seattle seems like they're kind of on that swing. We're not quite sure where they'll be, if they're going to be the top dog like they've been for the last couple of years, or if they're going to be on the downward trend. The thing that gets me is in that division where they got Tennessee and Jacksonville, and then Houston as well. Tennessee is better. Jacksonville last year was kind of one of those teams that I think people were high on, but then they just didn't produce last year. So it's going to be hard to see what they do with their own divisional opponents. Houston is Houston. Houston's kind of the team that Indy used to be. They seem to be the guys that may win the division again. But it's going to be a struggle all the way down for the Colts. Like again, the schedule later in you got Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh always seems to be a tough team over the years here. But the schedule is kind of favorable, but you really don't know about some of these teams and where they're going to be. Later in the year it's Tennessee and Jacksonville again, Buffalo, Denver, Baltimore. They close with Houston. They might catch some breaks here based on the schedule because there are some teams where you can sit there and think, man, we can score a few wins. Maybe we can get a few wins in a row here. So the schedule might be favorable for them, but again, we don't know. And like every year, we sit there and always projecting, yeah, these teams are going to do stuff, and then all of a sudden, 3 or 4 teams that are on your schedule, next thing you know, they're all hot, and it could spell doom for the Colts.
So Jim, we're going to put you on the spot like we normally do for a lot of our people that come on the show here. Colts last year 8-8, struggled a little bit. What are you thinking this year?
I tell you what, I saw something that somebody wrote that said the Colts were going to probably finish 5-11 this year.
Wow.
That could definitely happen with an unproven, unknown defense. And again, Frank Gore is your running back, and Luck, depending on how he is health-wise. I say if you have all those guys in place and they're good to go, and the defense is better than what people might be thinking they are, I still think they come up short. They're probably 7-9 this year. If they got on, like I said, if they got on a roll, perhaps they're 9-7. So they're somewhere between that 7-9 and 9-7. It's really going to depend on what they actually do on the field. But I'm going to lean towards a 7-9 right now and have the team try to prove me wrong.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. Jim lays it out like it is, isn't it?
We only get the realists here.
Well, sometimes.
Most of the time.
Most of the time. So that's all the time we have for the Indianapolis Colts. I want to thank Jim Santora for hopping on the line with us and talking to us about the Indianapolis Colts. Jim, we always appreciate it.
The pleasure is all mine. Thank you.
It's actually all ours. But anyway, if anything happens in Colts camp or something happens or whatever the case may be in Indianapolis, there's any kind of fires or anything, well, maybe not fires, but if anything happens with the Colts, Jim will get back on the line and give us the updates. Is that a good deal, Jim?
Absolutely.
All right, that a boy. And remember, you can always get the Sports Box if you need to on sports social media.
Because as Jim knows, unlike the Colts defense, you can definitely count on us whenever you need us. So, you can find us on Twitter and Facebook at SportsBox Show. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're previewing all 32 teams coming into what should be a very interesting NFL season. Make sure you're along for the ride.
Does Jim owe you money or something? You just killed the guy today.
It's not his fault.
It's called an homicide detective in here. You killed the guy.
It's not Jim's fault. It's the Colts defense.
Anyway, so thank you for watching this Sports Box. We appreciate it. And that's Sports Box. The only opinion that matters is absolutely right here. Thanks for watching. See ya. 1, 2, 3.
Don't forget to subscribe.